Welcome, high performers. You are tuning into a masterclass explainer today, where we're going to take you from being a reactive decision maker to a calm, strategic leader who fiercely protects what we call decision equity. I'm seriously excited to guide you through this material because we're looking at the very real biological limits of our brains. We're going to see exactly how top-tier leaders hack those limits to maintain peak performance.
So if you've ever hit a massive mental wall before noon, you know, that feeling where just choosing between a salad and a sandwich feels like trying to defuse a bomb? Well, let me reassure you, you literally cannot outwork your brain. And no, it is absolutely not laziness, it's biology. You can't just caffeine your way to better clarity as much as we all try. Today, we're going to understand exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for this explainer. We're scaling from your microscopic neurobiology all the way up to elite strategic execution. We'll be hitting 1. The neuroscience of choice, 2. Maximizers versus satisficers, 3. Automating your cognitive load, 4. The Eisenhower Matrix, 5. High-performance delegation protocols, and finally, 6. Science-backed cognitive recovery.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the neuroscience of choice, understanding the biological cost of decisions.
Here's the thing you have to realize. Decision-making isn't just some abstract mental task. It costs serious physical resources like glucose and oxygen. Every single choice you make, no matter how tiny, chips away at your cognitive bandwidth. According to cognitive neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, our brains can only make a finite number of logical choices per day. That's it. And burning through them leads directly to decision fatigue, which is basically the deteriorating quality of decisions made after a long session of choice-making. When you hit that wall, your overwhelmed brain just starts making impulsive choices. Or, honestly worse, it avoids making any decision at all.
Daniel Kahneman's dual process theory perfectly explains why this happens. See, under stress and fatigue, we automatically default to what he calls System 1. Now, System 1 is fast, it's automatic, but it is heavily prone to bias and really poor judgment. Top-performing leaders, though, they train themselves to pause and regulate their nervous systems so they can activate System 2. That's the slow, deliberate, highly logical center of the brain. They don't confuse urgency with true importance.
Moving right along to Section 2, Maximizers versus Satisficers, the psychology of choice.
This is a fascinating psychological framework from psychologist Barry Schwartz, based on his research into the paradox of choice. So, for a maximizer, the goal is always finding the absolute perfect option. Think about buying a pair of jeans. A maximizer will research every fit, every wash, every brand, just hunting ruthlessly. But because there are literally thousands of options out there, they usually end up paralyzed and actually suffer from high regret. On the flip side, you have the satisficer. They are just looking for the good enough option. They fully embrace the idea that done is better than perfect. They find a choice that meets their criteria and boom, they move on. That quick pivot drastically preserves their mental energy for the stuff that actually matters.
Which brings us to Section 3, automating your cognitive load, protecting your brain.
You really need to start treating your brain like a billion-dollar asset. Actively protect it by removing trivial choices entirely. Think about former President Barack Obama. He famously noted that he only wore gray or blue suits specifically to pare down decisions. Steve Jobs did it. Mark Zuckerberg did it. Elite leaders rely on routine, not because they're boring, but because it is deeply, deeply strategic. Eliminating low-stakes choices preserves that precious cognitive energy for the high-impact decisions they need to make later in the day. Remember, you aren't just managing your time anymore, you are managing your decision equity.
So how can you actually pull this off? Well, start by automating the first 60 minutes of your day with a few super simple hacks. Try meal prepping on Sundays. Pre-plan your work wardrobe the night before. Jot down your to-do list right before you go to sleep, and set a consistent morning alarm. By just completely removing these choices, you severely reduce friction, you lower your stress hormones, and you build massive momentum before you've even looked at a single email.
All right, Section 4, the Eisenhower Matrix, a framework for strategic execution. So now that we've cleared out the trivial stuff, we need a high-level strategic framework. Enter the Eisenhower Matrix. Popularized by Stephen Covey and based on a concept from Dwight D. Eisenhower, this basically forces you to categorize every task by urgency and importance. Quadrant 1 is do. These are tasks that are both urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is schedule. Important but not urgent. Think long-term planning here. Quadrant 3 is delegate. Urgent but not actually important. And Quadrant 4 is delete. Neither urgent nor important. Period. Separating the truly important from the merely urgent is exactly what allows you to act strategically instead of just constantly putting out fires. And this is absolutely crucial because a staggering 60% of our time at the office is spent on what's called work about work. We're talking sharing status updates, chasing down approvals, managing endless mind-numbing email chains. Because so much of our day just gets eaten alive by this stuff, ruthlessly using that delete quadrant is essential. It completely eliminates the busy work that's draining both you and your entire team.
Let's look at Section 5, High-Performance Delegation Protocols, Empowering Your Team to Decide.
Now, a lot of leaders really struggle to delegate, mostly because they fear losing control, or they just think, hey, I can do it faster myself. But true delegation is what drives team growth, and it all comes down to one brilliantly simple metric, the 70% rule. If someone else on your team can do a task 70% as well as you can, you must delegate it. No exceptions. It gives them a chance to step outside their comfort zone and level up, and it completely frees you up from being the bottleneck.
This is exactly how the most innovative companies operate. Look at Palantir. They embed these forward-deployed engineers directly with customers and give these younger employees extreme agency to just solve incredibly complex problems on the fly. They specifically hire for a low-ego, high-ops tempo mindset. By trusting your team with that level of extreme ownership, you free yourself to make the very few high-stakes choices that actually move the needle. It perfectly echoes Jeff Bezos' philosophy: make just 3 high-quality decisions a day. That is enough.
Finally, we've made it to Section 6, Science-Backed Cognitive Recovery, Sustainability for High Performers.
Listen, literally none of these frameworks matter if you are constantly redlining your nervous system. Elite recovery is a non-negotiable leadership skill. I mean, you wouldn't expect a tennis player like Serena Williams to win 23 Grand Slams without elite physical recovery, right? Well, your brain requires that exact same level of respect. Because the amygdala, which is your brain's fear center, can so easily hijack our logic center under stress, we have to actively manage our emotions. Psychologist Dr. Preeti Vats recommends a really fantastic tool called the Trigger Tracker Protocol. Basically, after an impulsive moment or a super tense meeting, just ask yourself 3 things. What triggered me? What did I feel? And what would a wiser version of me have done? Emotional awareness is not a soft skill, it is deeply strategic. Regulating your nervous system before you strategize is a total game changer.
You can actually actively resynchronize your heart and brain using some amazing science-backed recovery protocols. Try coherent breathing, just inhaling for 5 seconds, exhaling for 5 seconds. This literally shifts your body out of survival mode and fires up your prefrontal cortex. Take micro breaks between your meetings. Go for a 10-minute reset walk in nature. Or try adopting a strict no decisions between 3 and 5 p.m. rule. Give your brain a dedicated reset period. Building these habits into your day proves that sometimes slowing down is actually the ultimate secret to speeding up.
Ultimately, fiercely protecting your decision equity is all about choosing calm power over cognitive chaos. It's about intentionally designing your environment so your brain can do exactly what it does best. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on today. What trivial choice are you going to completely automate tomorrow?